Welcome to Behind the Bower, where we bring you inspiring conversations, a fresh look at the arts in our community, and spotlights on the incredible artists, performers, collaborative partners, and organizations that make our creative world thrive. Through this podcast, we aim to celebrate the universal expression of human experience through arts, culture, and community. I'm your host, Lauren Hood, Program Coordinator for Bower Center for the Arts, and we are thrilled to introduce today's special guest. Joining us today are James Lasley and Bryan Wolk from Sentry Equipment and Erectors, located in Forest, Virginia. Sentry is a leading manufacturer and integrator of conveyor systems, palletizers, depalletizers, and advanced packaging equipment. As part of the Promoc family of companies, a national leader in packaging solutions, Sentry brings unmatched expertise, innovation, and engineering to its work, helping businesses across the country package and deliver the products we all rely on every day. Today, we'll get to know James and Bryan personally, dive deeper into Sentry's mission and innovative work, and hear why supporting community events like Art of Pairing Martinis and Moonshine is so important to them. Good morning, James.
Good morning.
Bryan.
Good morning.
So we're just going to dive right into these questions. So whoever wants to start, can you each share a little bit about your journey, how you first got connected with Sentry, and what your role looks like today?
Sure. So I've been in Lynchburg almost 15 years. After I graduated college, moved out here with my longtime girlfriend, now wife. I've been working my way up through several roles through local companies in the accounting world. Most recently, I was a controller at another company, and we'd done a lot of acquisitions through that company. And I was reached out to about Sentry, who I had known from some friends who worked there, had recently been acquired by Promoc. So I thought that was a really exciting experience to kind of see the other side of the acquisition of a company. So I jumped on board with the offer, and we've been there about a year and a half now.
Awesome.
Yeah, as Bryan mentioned, Sentry got acquired by Promoc in late 2023. At the time, I was working for a different Promoc company in South Carolina. So then with the acquisition of Sentry and some of the changes that went on there, I became exposed to who Sentry was and what Promoc's plans were for them, and then received the opportunity to transition from that business to Sentry in the spring of 2024. Like Bryan said, we've both been there about a year and a half.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So what do you guys enjoy most about the work you get to do every day?
For me, it's never the same.
Yeah.
With all the changes that Promoc has brought to Sentry in the past 2 years, there's always new processes, new procedures that we get to implement, make our work more efficient, make our work more presentable. So it's really nice to have a different day every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's really new. So I've been in manufacturing for a long time, but usually with consumable goods. So this is kind of my first experience with actually building large pieces of equipment and whole systems. So for me, there's still very much of a learning curve, and it's nice to just be learning new things every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that for you guys. If you had to describe the culture at Sentry in just a few words, what would you say?
So I would say resilient and adaptive. I think one of the things that being new to Sentry, one of the things that really compelled me in the beginning was that they've been around for decades. They've been through lots of ebbs and flows in the economy, with the community, as the market changes, customers change. And I think it's really impressive when a company can go 40 years, change its identity, shift its abilities, and just adapt and stay resilient over time.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think transparency is a big one in our culture as well.
Yeah.
We've really tried to put as much information out as possible to everyone who works there so they understand what's going on behind the scenes, kind of the direction Sentry's heading, how Promoc is helping us, so that they get to see why we're making changes, not just see the changes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about your journey and how you guys got into Sentry. I want to talk a little bit about like what Sentry is, like if somebody doesn't know who Sentry is, who Promoc is. So for someone who's never heard of Sentry, how would you explain what the company does in like simple terms?
Yeah, in super simple terms, we build conveyor and equipment. So most of that is oriented to the beverage industry. So if you've bought a soda of some sort in this area, it's very likely that where that was produced ran across some sort of Sentry equipment in some way, shape, or form.
So Sentry designs conveyor systems, palletizers, and depalletizers. Can you just like walk us through what that looks like and why it's so important in packaging?
Yeah, I think so. Palletizers, you're taking empty cans and moving them into whatever that filling process is. or I'm sorry, depalletizers, and then palletizers is the reverse. Now you have full cans that are getting stacked back up again. And then the conveyors are connecting all the different process steps within the customer's process, right? So filling and sanitizing and all the different things.
Yeah.
I think it's important because it's the behind the scenes look at how kind of our world works, right? We go into the grocery store, we see all of these packaged items, we buy our groceries. We don't really think about how it gets there.
Yeah.
And we play a pretty integral part in allowing our customers to make and produce these things. If it's sodas, if it's spirits, packaged food, we don't think a lot about how that finally makes its way to the grocery store shelf. And it's good to be a part of that foundation of how that process actually works.
Yeah. Yeah, I visited Sentry a couple of times, and it's really cool because it always like reminds me like an episode of like Unwrapped. I don't know if you guys ever watched it on the Food Channel.
Yeah.
Like it's just like it's very, very cool like getting to watch those systems work. So it's awesome. What industries rely most on Sentry's equipment, and how do your systems help them work more efficiently?
Our main market is beverage, as James mentioned, whether it's soda or distilled spirits, wine. Those are where our main customers are. But we're also kind of branching out more into food, packaged items. We do a big project for a company that makes frozen egg patties.
Cool.
And they bought one of our robotic palletizers to stack their boxes in the freezer environment. So those are some of the main ones, but we're kind of always expanding our outreach.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, like James says, it's like it's every aspect of our lives is like being touched in this through these robotics and in these certain ways. So that's really cool. What makes Sentry's approach unique compared to other manufacturers or integrators in your field?
I think history and relationship is a big part of that. Like I said, Sentry's been around for 40 years, and so we've got customers that we've worked with for decades, and I think some of that, if I would say, intimacy with that customer, really understanding their needs, their desires, where their business is heading, and actually having partnered with them for such a long time is a really, really big deal in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're also known for our high quality. So we don't keep customers for that long without providing quality product, quality service, and quality relationships.
Yeah, for sure. Can you share a project or innovation that you're especially proud of, like something that really shows what Sentry is capable of?
Yeah, there's a project that we did last year into the beginning of this year, and it was a multi-robot project. So 2 robot cells, 3 robots in each cell, 6 total. The kind of from an artistic point of view, right? It's what we do is very scientific. But the end result ends up being something almost like a piece of art. It's almost like watching a ballroom dance or listening to an orchestra. You see these 6 robotic cells all kind of moving in unison, kind of singing to the same tune and creating this output that's actually something very beautiful to see and to watch and to be impressed by. Yeah. But then the other part of that is the people from the customer who bought that piece of equipment from us, when they came on site to Sentry and we were working through some things with them, it really struck me how we impact their day-to-day lives. So we had half a dozen folks from that customer. And one of the gentlemen pointed out to us that what we had provided, the solution that we had provided, took their changeover time from about 3 hours down to about 15 minutes.
Wow.
And you could just see on their faces, and they would articulate as much, that how much this is going to improve how much they enjoy their job and like working on that machine and the things that they do. And so it was pretty eye-opening, again, being fairly new to Sentry, to see this amazing thing that we were able to do and to hear directly from the people that it impacted that my day-to-day life is going to be better because we partnered with Sentry and we created this product. We created this machine.
Absolutely. How does teamwork shape the way Sentry operates and delivers for clients?
Yeah, it's, again, kind of making the connection back to the arts, right? It's like an orchestra. It's you're coordinating all of these different elements in pursuit of a comprehensive song, right? So how those departments connect with one another, when one department leads and the other kind of backs out and then crescendos up and we make the handoffs. All of that's super important. And it's actually one of the biggest things Bryan alluded to this kind of renewed sense of transparency within Sentry because we're making a lot of changes. We're doing a lot of things different. A lot of that is aimed around teamwork, and we've reorganized the business. Its organizational structure is much different now than it used to be, but all of that is aimed at that teamwork piece of getting these teams to work better with each other, understand each other. It's almost like playing a basketball game where you know your position, but you also understand the positions of others and how the whole system works. That's a lot of what the transparency is aimed at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've noticed with Sentry just like how great of a or just like a work culture it is. And just the people, like I've gotten to know a couple of the different people like you guys. And there's just like something different. Like there's a difference in there than like a lot of other big corps.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, yeah.
No, I'm glad that comes through.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah. What do you think surprises people most when they learn about what Sentry does?
I think the big thing is that Sentry has impacted their life in some way.
Yeah,
They might not know it, whether they've ever grabbed a soda, grabbed a glass spice jar, a jar of peanut butter. It's almost 100% chance that at some point it touched some part of Sentry equipment. So every day when people drive down 460, see our beautiful building, our beautiful grass, they probably don't know what we actually do inside. So that being said, they have some impact on their life from Sentry without even knowing it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that has surprised me. Our building is pretty prominent down on the 460. You can kind of see it from the road. And so everyone knows it's there. They see the sign. They kind of know the name, but they don't really necessarily know what we do. And I think when we bring people in and we give them a tour, there is consistently this sense of being impressed. I didn't realize that this form of advanced manufacturing and engineering was actually taking place right here in my neighborhood or in my city.
Right.
Which is strange because as well known as we are in the industry, as well known as we are in the market, and as well known as we are to our customers for decades, interestingly enough, I think there's still a good part of the community in Forest that still is kind of uncertain as to who Sentry is and what it is they do.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I talk about Sentry to outside people, I always mention that building and they know the building, but then they're like, oh my gosh, I literally had no idea that that's what was inside of it. Yeah. So it is really cool. With technology and automation advancing so quickly, how does Sentry stay ahead of the curve?
So one of the things we're doing just within recent months is we actually dedicated a team to that. So we just stood up a product development, research and development team that's very, very new within Sentry, and it's really aimed at that. It's aimed at making sure we have a handful of people who are kind of looking out at the horizon, seeing how things are changing, making sure we're keeping up with advances and innovations and incorporating that into our designs. Yeah.
And playing on that as well, we're kind of trying to prepare ourselves for the future with our internship program that we did. We had over 300 applicants and for 6 positions. It was extremely successful. They were able to modify a product we have in the field to improve it for our customer.
That's awesome.
So we're trying to kind of spread the knowledge out through our whole company because we have some aging workforce. And so a lot of knowledge we need to get passed down to the younger generation.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So where do you see Sentry headed in the next 5 to 10 years?
So I have a very positive outlook for Sentry. I mean, I think at a personal level, right, I bet my family's future on it. Yeah. Right. So we moved here to Forest, Virginia because of what we saw in Sentry. And I'm really grateful that when I was interviewing for the position, my wife came with me. And it was embarrassing to me because it was the first time I realized that my wife had actually never been inside of a manufacturing facility where I worked. Yeah. And I both regret and love that the first exposure she ever had to that was at Sentry because Sentry really does set a standard. When you go inside of there, it is one of the cleanest, most advanced shops you're going to see. And like I said, we were living in a different state and we were happy and life was good and we weren't necessarily looking to make a change. But as we left that tour and we're driving out of the parking lot, before I could say anything, my wife told me, hey, if this is real, we need to do this. Right. And so it just gives you a sense of even she, who doesn't really understand manufacturing, even my kids who have never really cared what dad does for work, the minute they've seen the inside of Sentry, it's powerful. They all say, yes, this is it. We need to make this relocation. We need to move to Forest, Virginia. This is the future. So I obviously have high hopes, and I think Sentry has a bright future in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a big player in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be Promoc, our parent company as well. They own over 55 packaging companies.
Wow.
And one of the big reasons they like Sentry is because of the conveyor, and a lot of the products in their portfolio use conveyor. So as we're building those relationships with all the other companies, they're going to start utilizing Sentry's conveyor as well.
Yeah.
So we expect our sales to increase, our headcount to increase. So we're always looking for bright young talent.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So what makes Forest and just this region as a whole like meaningful as the home base for Sentry?
Big thing is our customer base. We're 3 hours from Charlotte, 3.5 hours from DC, big cities where they consume a lot of beverages that we provide. We're also close to Kentucky with all the distilleries. The big bourbon boom was really good for our customer base on the spirit side. So it's a nice central location where we can easily service a lot of our main customers. That being said, we are across the whole country, even some in South America, Mexico, Brazil. So that's kind of our goal, to kind of spread out over a little bit more, but we'll always keep our home base here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of history here. The kind of that this area is kind of known as the conveyor capital of the world. There's a lot of companies from the past that people have come from, or things have morphed over the decades. And so there is a lot of local knowledge about this type of work.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Which is something I didn't know until I got to know Sentry, that it's the conveyor capital of the world. Like that there are just so many of just that specifically. Like it's so crazy. So why is it important for Sentry to sponsor and support community events like Art of Pairing, Martinis, and Moonshine?
I think part of it has to do with kind of what I mentioned earlier. We seem to be a very prominent business in our market and in our industry, but maybe not as closely connected with the community as we'd like, right? So a big part of it is simply just creating that relationship with the community, right? The community has given us so much. We have opportunities to give back, and vice versa. And so making sure that we are kind of a well-known employer of choice in the area, not just for our own good, but for the sake of the community itself, is important to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And for our listeners, we are going to have another episode with Sentry next week, and they are going to dive really deep into that question about why and how Sentry is going to support the community in this way. So one more question for you guys. What do you hope people in the community walk away understanding about Sentry after seeing your name as the title sponsor?
I think I want them to know that we're very interested in giving back to the community that's also given a lot to Sentry.
Yeah.
As James said, we're growing. We had a hiring event a couple months ago with over 100 individuals who turned out for it. We ended up hiring almost 30 from that event. So we've gotten a lot of good support from the community to help us with our goals. So we'd like to, in turn, give back to the community to support their goals as well.
Yeah, I think just things like this, right? Getting to know us, getting to know what Sentry is about. Over the last year, I've had an opportunity to work with our human resources team, our marketing team, kind of start getting the Sentry name out there, going to hiring events, or like Bryan said, creating an internship program, meeting with leaders from local universities and colleges. And I've been really impressed and pleased with the positive feedback we've gotten from all of those events.
Yep.
But again, a lot of times there's this, we had no idea. We didn't realize. And I think there's a lot of opportunity at Sentry, as we talked about, the next 5 to 10 years. And I think for anybody in this area looking to do some sort of engineering, advanced manufacturing, kind of innovative type work, we just want them to be aware that we exist and come check us out. And like Bryan mentioned, I was really impressed the last year when we started an internship program. We had 6 openings. We had 300 applicants. We had this hiring event a few months ago because we are growing so fast.
Yeah.
And we had over 120 people show up. And again, that was nice. It was nice to open our doors and invite people kind of into our home. Obviously, we can't hire 120 people, but everyone who was there really enjoyed seeing the space, understanding what the business does, and just realizing the opportunity for the future that exists there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Well, James and Bryan, thank you so much for joining me today on Behind the Bower. I've truly enjoyed learning more about Sentry equipment and their innovative work, their industry expertise, and their dedication to both their field and community they call home. And a special thank you to Sentry for being the title sponsor of our upcoming annual fundraiser, Art of Pairing Martinis and Moonshine. Mark your calendars. Art of Pairing is happening Saturday, October 18th, and it promises to be a truly unforgettable evening. Guests will enjoy handcrafted cocktails and moonshine tastings perfectly paired with delicious bites, all in a lively atmosphere that celebrates both art and community. It's not just a night of fun, it's a way to support the Bower Center for the Arts so we can continue offering arts education, performances, and experiences that truly make a difference in people's lives. Tickets are available now at bowercenter.org. We hope to see you there. Oh, and don't miss next week's episode. I'll be sitting down with Chandler Hood and Mackenzie from Sentry to dive deeper into why Sentry chooses to invest in our local community and to get the inside scoop on what it's really like to be a Sentry employee. It's going to be a great conversation that you don't want to miss. Thank you again for Sentry for their incredible support. We truly couldn't do this without partners like you. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Behind the Bower.